She ran out of the house wearing almost nothing, with a metal collar locked around her neck and a chain hanging from it, and she pounded on a neighbor's door in Excelsior Springs, Missouri, just before 8 o'clock on the morning of October 7th, 2022. She told the people inside that she had been held captive in a basement for weeks. She said a man had beaten her, assaulted her, and tortured her. The neighbor called police. Within minutes, officers were moving toward a quiet single-story home on Old Orchard Avenue, and one young woman's flight for help was turning into one of the most disturbing criminal cases Missouri had seen in years. The woman was 22 years old. According to court records summarized by the Associated Press, she told investigators she had met Timothy Haslett Jr. in the Kansas City area and agreed to get into his pickup truck after he offered her money. Once she was inside, she said, the encounter changed fast. She told police he threatened her with a gun, assaulted her, and forced narcotics on her before taking her to his house in Excelsior Springs, about 40 minutes northeast of Kansas City. There, she said, he hid her in a locked basement space that investigators would later describe as a dungeon, a room equipped with restraints, cameras, and other items police said were consistent with prolonged captivity and abuse. What made her survival story so strong was not just that she escaped. It was how long she had to stay alive first. She told investigators she had been held there for about a month. During that time, she said, she was beaten and assaulted repeatedly. Police later said she had visible injuries, including marks on her back from whippings. When officers searched the house, they said they recovered numerous items from the residence and began the slow process of sorting through them to determine whether other crimes had also been committed. By the time a grand jury later returned additional charges, prosecutors said 16 agencies had devoted more than 1,200 hours to the investigation. The room she described was hidden below a house that, from the outside, looked ordinary. That contrast became part of the shock. A P reported that the survivor ran for help while Haslett was taking his child to school. That detail mattered because it explained the narrow window she used. She was not rescued in a raid or found during a routine stop. She got out because she recognized one brief opening and took it, still wearing the collar he had allegedly used to control her. Escape did not look dramatic at first. It looked like a desperate person reaching a front porch before the person hunting her came back. Haslett was arrested that same day and initially charged in connection with rape, kidnapping, and assault. Police also pushed back against rumors spreading online that there were known dead victims at the house, saying on October 7th, 2022, that no deceased individuals had been located there and that there was no evidence of additional dead victims at that time. Even then, investigators made clear the case was still active, the search of the property was continuing, and more charges could follow if more evidence was uncovered. Over the next months, the case widened. In February 2023, a Clay County grand jury indicted Haslett on 9 felony counts tied to the surviving woman's account: first-degree rape, first-degree kidnapping, 4 counts of first-degree sodomy, 2 counts of second-degree assault, and child endangerment for leaving unsecured firearms accessible to a child. Prosecutors said that if convicted on all counts, he could face 5 life sentences plus additional years. By then, police had also publicly identified a woman they wanted to find as a potential witness in the case, 36-year-old Janie M. Crosdale. At the time, they said they believed she had important information about the investigation. The surviving woman's statements hinted that the case might be larger still. A P reported that she told investigators Haslett had described killing other women and threatened that if she did not obey him, he would put her in a barrel like the rest of them. That allegation was horrifying on its own, but it was still only an allegation until investigators could match it to evidence. They kept working through digital files, photographs, maps, and material recovered from the house and phones. A P reported that police found images of Haslett with 2 different women in the basement area, and that his phone contained more than 100,000 images and videos, much of it violent sexual material. Investigators were no longer looking at one escape. They were trying to determine whether the woman who made it out had run from the center of something even darker. Then the missing witness became a homicide victim. In June 2023, kayakers camping along the Missouri River in Saline County found a blue 30-gallon barrel containing human remains. Authorities later identified the body as Janie Crosdale. In July 2024, a Clay County grand jury indicted Haslett for first-degree murder in her death. Law enforcement said multiple pieces of evidence connected him to Crosdale's killing. AP reported that investigators had previously been trying to locate her as a potential witness after identifying her in photos recovered from the house. With the murder charge, Haslett's bond rose to $5 million. He pleaded not guilty. That later murder charge changed the way many people looked back at the survivor's escape. It did not make her account more dramatic. It made it more concrete. She had said she believed she would be killed if she stayed. The later discovery of Crosdale's remains made that fear impossible to dismiss as panic. It also sharpened the plainest fact in the case. A woman was alive because she moved first. She did not wait for a perfect chance. She ran in the condition she was in daylight, into a neighborhood where someone might hear her. That decision separated her from a witness police were still searching for months later, and from a dead woman whose remains were eventually pulled from a barrel beside a river. There was nothing cinematic about the way she survived. It was ugly, immediate, and physical. She had to stay alive in a locked room long enough to notice a weakness in the routine. She had to believe help might still exist outside the house. She had to cross the distance from basement Captivity to a neighbor's front door before the chance closed. Investigators and prosecutors later praised her bravery, but the word can flatten what that morning actually required. It required judgment under extreme fear. It required speed. It required the ability to act while injured and under coercion. And it required believing that one door and one knock might be enough. The case remained active, and later reporting showed it had still not reached a final trial outcome by late 2025, when additional delays were reported and a new trial setting was pushed into 2026. But the essential fact of the story had been clear from the beginning. A woman who had allegedly been hidden, controlled, and brutalized in a concealed basement area found a sliver of time, used it, and lived. Everything that followed, the search, the grand jury charges, the identification of Janie Crosdale, and the murder case, grew out of that single act of escape on October 7th, 2022. That is what made the Missouri Dungeon survivor story so hard to shake. It was modern. It happened in a neighborhood with porches, driveways, and school drop-offs. It involved a hidden room under a house that did not announce itself to the outside world. And at the center of it was not a mystery about whether anyone would come save her. It was a woman understanding, with brutal clarity, that nobody was coming unless she created the moment herself. She got out alive. She reached another human being. She forced the locked world under that house into the open. Thank you for listening to Horrifying Survival Stories. Subscribe for more stories of those who faced the impossible and lived.